Welcome back to our second presentation of Coffee Retail Summit in Europe. My name is James Shepherd. I'm the Premier Campus Programme Director at the SCA, and it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Michael Nagel. Michael is a leader in our international experience at BBay Coffee, and BBay Coffee helps coffee roasters and chains to standardize cup quality, transform commercial models, and streamline maintenance. Michael is an experienced commercial and operations leader in technology. Prior to BBay Coffee, he was a global thought leadership role at LinkedIn and led strategy consulting teams in Swiss boutiques consultancy Sky Advisory. At the end of Michael's presentation, I'll be taking some questions from you, the audience, and present them back to Michael. I'd like to introduce you to Michael. Morning, Michael.
Good morning, James. Good to see you. Very good to see
Absolute
you.
Pleasure to see you and also to have you on our retail summit. We're delighted to have you and for you to share what you've been up to and an experience for everyone else to watch. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Absolutely. We are very proud to be here, very thankful to be here, and very excited to share our little contribution to the specialty coffee community, and hopefully be able to show a little bit and teach a little bit how you can use technology and data to make better coffee, which is what we're all here for. So let me take over. I think you can see the slides now. So as I just said, that's what I'll be talking about. How can you use the power of data and technology to fill your cups with delight or make better coffee, improve your quality management at scale? So as James said before BBay Coffee, I was at LinkedIn, and at LinkedIn we used to say, and we used to tell to everybody who would listen really, that data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. And what does that mean? It's sort of an analogy that means that in a way, data in the early 21st century is like oil was in the 18th century. It's an immense asset. It's a huge asset that in a lot of ways is still untapped and its value has not been fully unlocked. Now, it's immense in the sense that still we are, every 2 years, we are doubling the amount of data that humanity is capturing and storing. For example, Google is capturing 3.5 billion searches every single day. There's a huge amount of data that we're capturing and storing. And it's also untapped. Now, and that means there's a lot of potential value to unlock. Now, there's promise and there is also a warning in that analogy. I hope we will be more sustainable in how we run data centers versus how we have been with how we've used oil in the past, and we'll learn from that experience. But there's also promise. And why is it an untapped asset? In a lot of ways, data, the majority of the data that's there and the technology that's there is still not fully unlocked in and has not fully brought us all the value that it could. And I have an opinion on why that is, because in my opinion, data on its own is essentially useless. Data is not useful unless you use it to generate action and to take better decisions or do something that you wouldn't have done without that data. And that only works if data is put into its context, into a good context, so it turns into insight so that you can make better decisions. Now, in the context of coffee, what is value? What is value that you can generate from data? And that's what I want to talk about today a little bit, how you can use data to improve the decisions you make, increase the quality of your coffee. So that's one way that we believe at BBay Coffee, data and technology can help, and actually data as an asset can be tapped for the coffee community. So let's have a look at what I'll be talking about in these next 25 minutes or so. First, I'll walk you very briefly to data in coffee, which in a lot of ways is called telemetry, the advent of data in coffee. What is telemetry? How does it work? Why would you be interested in using telemetry? And then we'll jump into the meat of the topic, which is how to use data to ensure cup quality. We'll talk a little bit about quality control, a few key stats, and then we'll really talk about 2 customer examples of how data can be used to make better coffee, and that actually turn that asset into something valuable. And then at the end, I want to close us off with some key takeaways. So let's jump into it straight away. So the telemetry topic. What is telemetry, or how do you bring data into coffee? So what's telemetry? In a nutshell, telemetry is you connect all your machines. And when I say all machines, connect all the machines, that means you can connect fully automatic coffee machines. You can connect traditional barista coffee machines. You can even connect grinders and even water filters. What do you do with that? You connect them to the cloud so that you can collect information and data from those machines and those assets that you have out in the market to generate insights. And ultimately, what you would like to do to get from the technology like this is that you can sit in your living room, be on your phone, and know exactly what is going on in all of your shops out there, in all of your assets that are out there in the market. So you have an understanding of the operation of your business from anywhere in the world. So that's, in a nutshell, what telemetry is all about. Connect all the machines. How does that work? Every telemetry solution will have a slide similar to this. I'll just walk you through how it works at BB Coffee, but this will be similar for many solutions. So how it works very simply is, in any coffee machine, can be an automatic or a traditional machine, you put in a device. In our case, it's this little orange box that then connects to the mobile network. It's important to use the mobile network, not Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi will have reliability issues. Somebody changes the password and you won't be able to collect your data anymore. So the data gets sent over the mobile network and it lands on a data server. On that data server, in many cases, there will be some algorithms and some work done to the data. In our case, for example, with traditional machines, we are running some algorithms that will separate the difference between a cup and the flush that's being run on the same group with the same button. And then we send that data to a web app where our users and our customers can access the data in the form of insights, in the form of reports that they can have access to from a laptop, from a phone. Simply get to the data, get to insights that they can then generate actions from to run their business. So that's how it works in a nutshell. It's a device that's put into your assets, collects data, some algorithms working on the data, and then you access it online with your phone, with your laptop, wherever you want to. Why would you do that? There's a lot of use cases that telemetry can impact, and we sort of try to group them into 3 categories, and we'll be talking about mostly the one on the right here. But on the commercial side, telemetry can help you track the consumption of your coffee, how many kilos of coffee you've consumed, how many cups you've produced, and that can help you with in a lot of ways. It can help you with waste management. It can help you automate orders. It can help you do a lot of things. It can help you transform your business models as well. On the technical side, having those machines connected enables engineers to remote diagnose what's going on in a machine, sometimes initiate proactive maintenance before something breaks, or when something breaks, know from remotely what's going on and maybe avoid a trip. So that can help streamline maintenance and save costs as well. You can track water filters and change them when they need changing. You can track where the machine is as well. And then from a quality point of view, we'll dive deeper into this. Instead of doing audits once a month, once a quarter in person, you can actually audit every single cup. You can make sure that the machine's getting cleaned. You can keep track of the quality of your water as well, and all of this remotely. And you can then decide where you need to go based on the actual data. At a sort of zooming out a little bit at a high level, all of these ways that it can help companies, commercial, technical, and quality, basically can help your teams get more efficient and able to manage a bigger number of machines out in the market. So it's essentially just an investment for growth of your company, to be able to grow the estate with the same team. So that's a little tour de force, a quick introduction of what telemetry is, of what we think telemetry can do. So now let's jump into the meat. How do we use, or how can people use data to ensure the quality of the cups? So first of all, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, talking to the SCA, but quality control is brand value, and the quality of your coffee, every single time somebody consumes a cup of coffee with your logo on it, or that they know is coming from you, they will associate that experience of quality or lack thereof with your brand. So that's where your brand is being tested every day out there in the market. And that's not just some sort of abstract concept, but that actually has financial value to it as well. So every single time a company loses a customer because of a bad perceived quality experience, that can be worth 30,000, even 50,000 euro, depending on your average ticket size of lifetime consumption of that consumer. So it's worth money, and it is also worth investing into, although it does have quite a complex set of things to look at, as you see on this slide. But it's becoming more and more important because, as everybody here knows, and everybody in this audience is also contributing to, consumer tastes are getting up leveled all the time. I know this myself. Before I worked at LinkedIn, I didn't have much of a very refined taste for coffee. I grew up in the Swiss coffee culture with the coffee creme. Not saying that that's bad coffee, but I definitely know that my only concept of good coffee was strong coffee. I sort of thought that every time the coffee is strong, it's a good coffee. And beyond that, I never really thought about it, to be honest. And then I had the privilege to work at LinkedIn, where there was this amazing barista experience that we just had access to. It was put together by Gather and Gather, and it was really good coffee, amazing coffee. The baristas were really cool people. I became friends with them. And actually, this experience was put together by Julie Murray, who's now at Bewley's and in Dublin. And when I first met her a few years later, I told her, "Listen, Julie, you've ruined me for coffee, because now, as a consumer, having had that good experience, I'm more often this guy. I get a taste of coffee, and I'm like, not sure. I can't really phrase it maybe in the way the professionals in the field would be. Don't necessarily have the vocabulary. I'm working on it though, but I'm just a bit more difficult when it comes to coffee. I seek out a specialty coffee experience. I seek out good coffee, and I have a higher expectation as to what a good coffee is. And that's happening more and more in the market. Everybody here in the audience obviously knows this better than me. And because to avoid these experiences, a lot of money is invested along the entire coffee value chain, from trying to make the beans better, to the roasting. But the most difficult part to really control is the last mile to the customer or to the consumer, where it's just difficult because there's so many coffee machines out there in the market. There's so many shops, and it's just hard to keep the overview. As soon as you have a few machines running, a few shops running, of all those small behaviors of so many people at the same time. And that's just what makes it tough, and where it data can help you. Now, we know that this is difficult because we can actually see it in our data. We did a little bit of research across a big number of customers with their first, when machines first come online. We give our customers the possibility to set the standard for their recipe. For example, a good coffee is 22 to 28 seconds extraction. Anything below or above that is out of range with my standard, with my recipe. And the average machine, when they come online, actually more than half of the coffees will not be in range with that recipe. So that usually comes as a shock to our customers when they first connect the machine, how high that number is. But it just shows how really hard it is, especially in today's labor market, to have teams well trained and have every coffee be produced at its best potential. It's also really hard to manage behaviors at scale in general. So we actually found in the same research that on average, 1 in 4 coffees is made without prior flushing. So that will also obviously have an impact on the taste profile of the coffee that's made afterwards. And it is also difficult to keep the machines in a good state. From the same research, we found that almost 1 in 5 machines is not properly back flushed every single day, so cleaned the way with the blind on and with the cleaning protocol that the customer requires. So it is hard. Quality control is hard. There's a lot of things going on in your business with a lot of machines running at the same time. There's a lot of people to keep track of and a lot of processes to keep track of. But data can help, and this is where we believe if you use the right data, put it in the right context, you can really, really impact the quality of your coffee at scale. So now let's jump into it. Let's jump into 2 stories of how data can help make better coffee. And these are 2 customer examples that we'll go through now. The first one is a customer that connected 3 machines, and we looked at the cups to flushes ratio. How often do they flush versus the cups that they make? And the finding was immediately 2 out of the 3 shops were doing great. They're flushing every single time. Everybody happy. But one of the shops was in the red area where they were not flushing enough. So they were actually flushing less than once out of every 2 coffees, as you see here. And that generated a bit of consternation. Not everybody was happy. But it's actually a really simple story, because what happened is our customer went back to the manager of the store and said, hey, listen, look at the data here, look at how the others are doing, look at how you are doing. Something's not going great here. And actually, what happened is that in that conversation, that was a really productive conversation for our customer and for the manager. They said, yes, actually, I know this is true. I know I should be, I've been knowing this, that I should be changing this. And this gave them the impetus to really start managing towards those behaviors and to remind their baristas to improve that behavior. There was a little bit of training done as well. And as you can see on this chart here, over time, that number, that flushes to cups ratio, improved substantially. It's still not 100% where it should be, but it's getting better. So that's a simple story. Simply having data and having facts around a behavior that you know should be at a certain level can help you change that behavior and can help you generate the positive momentum and have a positive conversation where you can have better outcomes and better behaviors afterwards, and therefore make better coffee. Because as we all know, your flushing behavior will impact the quality of your coffee. Now, the second story is a little bit more involved. Here we had a customer that connected their machines, and here we were looking at their gold standard, their brand standard, so the extraction time and volume of the coffees that were being made. Now, we looked at that and looked at how many coffees were out of range with that brand standard. And it turned out one shop was doing pretty great, only 15% of the time out of range. That's pretty good, especially if the range is narrow. One shop was doing so-so, 32%, and one shop was almost 50% out of range. Again, knowing our research, we were not fully surprised, but for the customer, this came as a surprise. So obviously, this is not enough data to take a lot of action on, because you still don't know, okay, so what is going on? Why are they out of range with the standard? You just know they're out of range. So the next thing we did is, and the customer did, is look at their recipes. They had double ristrettos and double espressos set up on that machine. And what you see here on this chart in dark purple is how often they were short. So the extraction time was too short, below their standard. That's purple. Light green is when they were okay, and dark green is when they were too long, so extraction time above their standard. And what you can see here is immediately there's an issue with the double ristrettos. They're all the time way too short, and the double espressos are also generally too short when they're off, but they're doing much better. And this is actually something we've seen this in other customers as well, where the double ristretto doesn't get ordered so often, and baristas will sort of see, oh, this one's out of range, but because they're back to making double espressos, they won't have the time, or they won't take the time to readjust the grinders and to readjust so the double ristretto gets better as well. So that was a big takeaway. We now know generally the problem is that coffees are too short, so we need to set our grinders to be grinding finer, and especially pay some attention to the double ristrettos. We did a bit more before we just took action. We added a bit more context driven data, and that was, we looked at, okay, so there's an issue, when does it happen? And this is the average time of day the out of range coffees again. So if the number's high, there's more coffees that are out of range. And you can see here, this customer had a shift change at 2 p.m. or around 2 p.m. And you can see here that there's a big jump just when that shift change happens, with a lot more coffees going out of range at that point of time. And actually, what happened in reality, this wasn't because it's the busier shift. The shift in the morning was busier, a lot more production. But this team, just the team that came in the afternoon, just wasn't paying as much attention, wasn't as focused on the extraction times as the one in the morning. So now the customer had all the information they needed, enough data to take action. So they knew we need to help the afternoon shift. We need to help them and train them, and we need to train them to pay attention to the grinders and not let the extraction times go too short. And that's what they did. So what they went and did is they trained that team. And as you can see here, this is now over time, the out of range coffees over a few weeks. You can see here they dropped dramatically very quickly after that training and after having that conversation, and got into a very good range. The lowest line here, there's a small mistake we made on the chart, is 10%. Then it jumped back up because they had a change in their team. There was a new barista joining, but they immediately noticed that thanks to the data and retrained that person as well. And as you can see here, then they were consistently below 10% of coffees out of range. So really making a difference to the coffees, because now 90% of the coffees in that shop are just extracted exactly in the seconds that this coffee is best at. So I hope that gives you an idea how to use data to generate action. In the first story, we had the story where simply having access to data was enough to generate action. In the second story, it was having a little bit of a deeper understanding of why are things out of range and what's going on and when is it during the day. That also made it possible to generate action. When we say generate action, a lot of times it means training, and we see this solution, or telemetry in general, when it comes to the quality angle of it, we see this as a component to a larger quality management system, where training and making sure that you use the insight to trigger and upskill the people that are responsible for ultimately making this data better, and sort of have a positive upskilling oriented culture around this, so you can really generate sustainably better results in the data. So that's our stories. Those are two stories of hopefully that have hopefully shown you how you can use data to make better coffee. I'll now try to sort of summarize what we've seen and give you an idea of sort of what are the key takeaways from my point of view, or from our point of view, when it comes to data in the world of coffee. So first, like we've talked a little bit about telemetry. Is this something you should be interested in? We think you should be thinking about using data to manage your park if you're looking to grow it, and if you're looking to increase the number of machines, either more shops or more or simply more machines that you have out there in the market. If you're a coffee shop, now we try to put some numbers on it. They're not necessarily written in stone. I think if you're a coffee shop chain starting from 5 shops, it can get difficult to keep the overview of everything that's going on. So it can help you. And if you're a roaster anywhere over 25 machines, you'll probably start seeing real benefit from investing in a solution like this. Now, when you do consider investing in telemetry and investing in data to make better coffee, and you here's a few things that we think you should keep in mind when deciding what to go for. So first of all, make sure you're not connecting via the Wi-Fi, because that will generate reliability issues down the line, either people changing passwords or capacity limits or things like that. We would recommend that you find a solution that makes it possible to work with any machine, so traditional and fully automatic machines. And think about if you were going to change or buy some different machines, maybe from a different brand, will the solution still work for you? And then if you're connecting traditional machines, try not to count button presses. What I mean by that is people will be pushing the same button for flushes and for coffees in a lot of setups. Make sure you have a solution that actually can tell the difference between water flowing freely and water flowing through the coffee pasta. And then finally, since you're investing in a solution like this, and since you're also investing money in those machines, they're actually very valuable machines. Since you already have a telemetry solution, then make sure it's one that can help you track where those machines are physically, because more often than you think, people actually misplace machines. And also, just to prevent theft, it can be really helpful to know where those machines are at any time. And then finally, to summarize what we said about quality control, again, preaching to the choir, quality control is brand value, and brand value in a monetary sense, it's worth investing money in. Controlling quality is hard, and we keep seeing this. The bigger your operation, the harder it gets to keep the overview of all those small behaviors that ultimately make the quality of your coffee. And then very finally, I want to sort of end on the point that I've started with. Data is useless. It really is useless if it is not turned into action. And to turn it into action, it needs to be put in context. It needs to be put in a context that turns the data into insight, that actually teaches you something, and then enables you to generate action. So when you think about investing in any data-driven solution, really, not just telemetry, think about how will this help me learn, what insights will it generate, and how will I be able to take actions from these insights? In the case of telemetry for quality control, how will this help me generate less of these experiences, less of these something's off, and more of these experiences, delightful, joyful moments with your brew, served at its absolute best potential. That's it. That's our view on how you can use data to make better coffee. And now I'm really looking forward to the questions from the audience.
Michael, thank you for that. That was an incredible presentation and a really, really good insight into Bibe coffee. So I do have some questions, of course. I think we had the pleasure, obviously, to connect face to face just before December, and obviously understand a little bit more about yourselves. But I've got some questions that have come in, but one in particular that kind of stands out, and it actually relates back to customer service and customer satisfaction. But I mean, this is purely how it reads. But how would you suggest to collect the data if you don't have financial support, or if you're looking to install telemetry devices?
So, if I can understand the question correctly, the question is, how do you collect the same data if you can't invest in telemetry?
Basically.
Well, you can do what people are doing now, which is the quality audits, where you show up one day a month and test the coffee and observe the behaviors in the shop. If you don't invest in the technology, obviously you won't be able to collect data at scale and really have sort of operation-wide and continuous insights. That will require some investment in technology. But you can do, of course, quite a bit of intelligence with a manual data collection, like the audits that people in the market are doing now.
And another one for you, Michael. Thank you for that. But did you manage to link quality assurance data to financial data and even customer satisfaction data? Customer satisfaction must be a huge driver to manage the experience. If you're saying that some of those shops weren't backflushing versus ones that were, it'd be interesting to see if there was a link between customer satisfaction and quality.
Yeah, you can definitely do that research. We haven't done that ourselves, but that's actually a really cool idea for future research for our research team. You will definitely see a difference in customer satisfactions from stores with great behaviors versus stores with behaviors that have potential for improvement. And sort of anecdotally, we have also we can tell for sure. But no, we haven't done some really like systematic research into that. But it's a really cool idea. So thanks for that suggestion, whoever shared that.
And then, of course, there's costings. We've got questions, quite a few questions coming in regarding, are there upfront costs, ongoing costs? Is there a price to install the equipment? How does that actually work?
Yeah, so I won't share like prices and numbers right here, but you can reach out to us via our website, or you can just ping me on LinkedIn. I should be easy to find. But I'll give you like a bit of a basic understanding of how it works. It's just there's a price for the device, and then there's a continuous sort of a fee for the platform. There's also an option to lease the device with a slightly higher regular fee. But yeah, if you're interested in trying it out or in getting commercials, you can reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to have a conversation and show you the costing, and also a bit more in depth of how it works and how we do things.
Cool. And I've got a question more regarding design. Is there anything in terms of the quality aspects where the data can help feedback how design layout is in terms of if they're about to design a new coffee shop, where they should maybe position certain equipment? Is there do you have anything like that providing impact decision making?
That's a really cool question again, and honestly, some of these questions are giving us new ideas. So what we do see is a lot of time, actually, we see the cup production per group as well, and we always come across cases where you can just see the group that's right next to the grinder is being used, like it's 3 groups, but it's being used 65% of the time, and the one on the very left is almost not used. Now, I'm not sure what the direct takeaway for shop design is for that, but there is definitely a takeaway for, again, for management and training, telling people, please use all the groups sort of in a balanced way, so you don't run down the machine on one group, whereas the others still are in top shape. That's one example we always have. Shop design, again, I'll have to think about a little bit more. These are sort of high level questions, really smart questions that we haven't tackled yet, really.
And then the benefits of your data to the coffee retail owner or operator are clear, but sometimes it seems that the machine manufacturers would be extremely eager to access this. How can you protect the data and privacy?
Well, the data is owned by the customer who is buying the license, and they have sole access, and their data owner from a GDPR perspective. So they have with our solution, they have the control of who gets access. They have a very sophisticated user management and rights management that they can take full control over, essentially.
And again, we're getting questions. Are you available worldwide? Let's say the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. Of course, we've got questions, the exact same questions coming in from India. Just in terms of availability, please, this is seems good.
So this is, well, great question. And our solution is built to work worldwide. We have been more focused on Europe, to be honest now, but that doesn't mean that we are not open to doing business elsewhere. We are absolutely open to do business elsewhere. So please reach out to us. We would be absolutely happy to have a conversation. And the solution is built to work worldwide. It has a global SIM in there, so it's already it's ready to work anywhere in the world. I think there's very few countries where we will have to find an extra solution, but it's set up even for those. We'll just have to have a separate module, but we work anywhere.
And Michael, this is not obviously on the chat, but is it okay for us just to ask a few questions in terms of more about BB Coffee, in terms
Sure.
of who founded it, how was it founded, where are you based, how long have you been established for, the background behind it? It'd be really good to understand that and let the people listen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So BB Coffee was founded by three tech executives from Vodafone and Microsoft here in Greece. So these guys used to run the Internet of Things shop for Vodafone, and one of them had owned Panos had owned a coffee shop in the past, and that's sort of how the idea came up. They realized there's actually a lot of stuff that's happening that's not being tracked, where people have no control over in the operation of these shops. And so they started working on this in 2015. So this has been going for a while. They were first doing this as a side thing while they were working. These guys were running big shops, we're running 300 people's operations here in Greece. After work, they'd meet up in a little office and work on this. Then in 2018, they founded the company. So it's been going for now 4 years as 4 years as a company. So yeah, it's coming from a background of technology and telco expertise, but also having the experience of really running a shop themselves. So that's sort of those two things that come together. It's a really cool team. The operations are still based mostly out of Greece. So we're a Greek technology company, proudly so. But we are, as I said, available worldwide, and our customers are worldwide. We are right now rolling out in 29 countries with our existing customers. So we really have quite a broad geographic footprint already, and we're seeing really a lot of interest in what we're doing, and that's very rewarding. It's just really cool to be part of this coffee community. Just getting to know people and getting to know the community has been super rewarding for us in the last few years.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks. I'm just looking down to see some more of these questions coming in. We have a question here. 1 out of 4 machines is not backflushed. Are we talking about Europe or the entire world, or are we including Australia in that data, or is it just from the data you've gathered?
It is from a broad background. We don't share much more details on the database, but it's I think I wouldn't take that as a really precise data point that's applicable everywhere. But I think the learning is clear that it's not easy to make sure people are applying the right behaviors regularly. That's a fact. I think that applies everywhere in the world.
Thank you, Michael. I just want to see if you have any questions for us. If you have anything that you'd like to ask, or put that back to yourself. We don't always give people that opportunity.
Good question. Ask me another question. I'll think about good questions. So okay. Because so far we're just feeling really well taken care of by the SCA, and super proud to be part of this and part of the community. So
well, listen,
I
generally please, when we say this, I know we'd reached out, we'd talked about this. It was for us, this is it's right on par for the retail summit, and it's a pleasure to have you on the European side. And we very much look forward to seeing you develop and to grow. And I know that there'll be great opportunities for you. This is the opportunity, if that makes sense. But it works both ways, Michael. So of course we're delighted to include you in the program. We look forward to seeing how BBay Coffee grows over the next years and certainly in the short to long term. We wish you lots of success, and we just really appreciate you joining us here for the Retail Summit for Europe. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and from our side as well, thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for this community that you create, and we look forward to hopefully much more collaboration and engaging with the community and doing our little part to make coffee better and specialty coffee better everywhere in the world.
No problem. I'm just going to finish by saying to anyone who's watched this presentation, of course, BBay Coffee, Michael, you can contact via LinkedIn. I'm sure you can also go to their website, because there are lots of questions coming in regarding the costings, how they can actually install the equipment, Michael. So I'm sure that you'd be able to deal with those yourself.
Absolutely.
Direct. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on. So thank you once again, Michael.